mayor of Subic Bay and Olongapo City. And of course, I used a little bit of trickery and chicanery. I called it ARGO, the Autonomous Region of Greater Olongapo. Of course, I knew they weren't going to like it because I also passed on the word that means Attorney Richard Gordon of Olongapo, ARGO. And of course, right away, no, we're not going to call it that. He wants to be called Gordon of Olongapo, so we're going to change it to SBMA, which, if you look at the original plan, was Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority. And we got it done. And the next problem was, how are we going to do it when we got it? So now you have this base, and you know, in the Philippines, I don't know about America, but when they promise you a budget, it comes in trickles. And you have to beg, you know, the incumbent almighty, the president, please, please, give us some more. You know, it's just like that old joke, you know, in Manila, somebody was praying in the Quiapo church and said, Lord, my husband is very, very sick. Please give me some money and so that I can save. You know, I just need a couple of thousand pesos, you know. And you know, the guy who was sitting next to him was a senator, and he said, hey, I heard your prayer, and here's 500. And so she got the 500 and said, Lord, thank you very much, but next time don't pass it to the senator. He got the 1,500, you know. It's the same thing. Same thing. So we have to beg, and knowing that it wasn't going to happen, we said, hey, we're going to have to volunteer. I call it 3 V's. Vision, values, volunteerism equals victory. That time they didn't believe me. You had the vision, a Freeport, aim high. You had the values, lazy bones are forbidden, especially stupid ones, duty, dignity, determination, and then volunteerism. It's duty-free. It's a free port. No more duty. No, there is duty, but if we don't pay you, you're a volunteer. It's called duty-free. And so they did volunteer. 8,000 volunteers came in. How did we do it? Well, we had to show them where we're going. And I said, you think you want to be like Clark? Clark got stolen. The Americans who were leaving and the Filipinos who stayed behind, you know, they just left it and everybody just got everything and, you know, want to sham. So we were able to build it together. And of course, because I had so much, you know, braggadocio, if you will, if I may say that, I attracted the World Bank, and one day, you know, Cory Aquino didn't want to give me the chairmanship because I was going to be mayor and chairman, and her executive secretary said, no, he cannot have 2 positions. And, you know, so the World Bank suddenly came in. The World Bank went over and said, well, we want to see Gordon. And said, no, don't go see Gordon. Stay in the base. And so they stayed in the base. They saw the military, the Philippine military commander, and the Philippine military said, no, you can't see Gordon. Said the guys from the World Bank, some of whom are Indians, and that's why I love Indians, they said, no, we're going to see Gordon. If you have to walk outside the gate, we're going to see him. And they went out. And this is a true story. And they went up to my city hall, about 14 of them, and they suddenly gave me an oral examination. I said, we're from the World Bank. What are you going to do about this stuff? How are you going to do it? I'm going to do it with volunteerism. What is your vision? I want a free port out here. I'm going to build an airport, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to make it a logistics hub. And then by the time it was over, I was able to field all their questions. They suddenly said, well, come over to Washington. We're going to give you $350,000 in grant money. That is to start a little area, about 100 hectares, so that you could invite right away people and say, so much will be devoted for light industry, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, when they got out of the city hall, they were astounded because there was a big sign right away. It said, welcome, delegates from the World Bank. I said, how did you do that so fast? Because my people are always ahead. While we were talking, they were already building the sign. And so I said, well, and we're going to have a picture. We're going to stop traffic. So when you get back to Washington, you can say, this is the day you stop traffic in Olongapo. In front of the city hall, with all the jeeps, we stopped it and we had a picture. I still have it in my office. That started Subic Bay. Stamp of good housekeeping from the World Bank. Volunteers came in. We had the World Bank. Gave us then the Taiwanese came in. Americans won't let them land. They only asked for 1 plane. There were 2 planes. And the admiral at that time wasn't there. And there was a captain, a Serbian American, who didn't want him to land because he was kind of bureaucratic about it. I can't land that plane, Mayor. I said, you know that I have to have insurance and check all that. I said, land that plane. And so finally we got the plane landed, and threw in out the minister and now Vice President of Taiwan was there. And right away I knew him from my attendance of the leadership seminar from Georgetown, where they invited 30 world leaders here. He happened to be a fellow alumnus. And he said, Dick, after I toured him around, he made up his mind and said, we want 300 hectares. We're going to put up a Taiwanese zone right away. Volunteers came in. Remember, we had to protect the 60 storage tanks of fuel oil. That was about, I think, at that time, 28-day supply of Philippine oil. And we had to run the cathodic protection. Otherwise, there would be pollution in the area, or we would lose it. We had to run the power plant. We had to run the airfield. There's a big area, 40,000 hectares, including the ocean, including the forest, triple canopy forest. And we had volunteers. So we had one barangay out in town, a village, would take over the Naval Supply Depot. The others would take over the housing. Others would take over the airport. And this went on and on and on. And finally, we started getting, and so that by our first year, we started with tourism, duty-free shopping. And this is an interesting story, because I wanted to make them feel that, the Americans had duty-free because they weren't taxed. I said, we're going to make this like Hong Kong. And to get tourists to come down, they can shop here, rather than go to Hong Kong, spend your dollars here in Subic Bay. And so the guy who got the PX, or the exchange, said, you can get it if you open up by Christmas and sell duty-free products right away. I said, we'll do it. December 21, I think it was, they said, sorry, Mayor, they used to call me Mayor at the time, we can't do it. The cargo got left in San Francisco. I said, you don't open on the 25th, or the 24th, rather, Christmas Eve, Noche Buena. We're not going to open that duty-free shop for you. We came back, and then on Christmas Eve, the place was loaded, bristling with products. And I said, my God, you did it, huh? Yes, yes. So everybody was shopping, including my enemies who said, don't believe Gordon. They were shopping. They were the first ones to shop, And you know what? I found out later on, they bought all the duty-paid goods in Manila and brought it here at a loss. And when the ship finally came in, they made an awful lot of money. And that was what started. By our first year, we became the tourist destination of the year. We had an environmental tour. We brought all the people into the jungle, properly telling them how to take care of the jungle. Nobody could break a twig. We had the Aitas, or the Negritos, who were the Aborigines who were training the Americans how to survive in the jungle. They had shows, and they were showing how to make rice, cook rice out of bamboo and everything like that. And, everybody got a big kick out of it, because, they were living in houses that belonged to the Americans, and when they tried to give tips to the volunteers won't take it. They wouldn't take it. I said, we're volunteering here. We don't want to start a culture of corruption here. We're going to have a culture of pride here. And soon enough, everybody came in, and everybody followed the rules. And every security, it was peace and order. And finally, we started getting Enron, and Enron's still good. Ken Lay came over and said, we're going to run the power plant. Oscar Wyatt of Texas, both from Texas, came down and took over the petroleum tank farm. We, of course, did it in a very, very transparent way. We hired Credit Suisse First Boston to do the bidding for us, to try and get as our investment advisor. And true enough, we started getting money. And on our first year, we were already giving money to the national government. By the time we reached year 3, we had FedEx, we had all kinds of businesses, we were making telephones, we were making Reebok shoes, we were making fishing poles, we had a lot of things, we were making wetsuits and everything like that. On our 3rd year, we no longer got money from the government. They still owe us 80 million pesos, which they never gave. And I'll tell you, we were on our way. And on our 5th year, we had APEC. And every leader, from Latin America to Europe, from Lithuania to people from Papua New Guinea to China to Vietnam. The Vietnamese president had his birthday there. Everybody, Margaret Thatcher came over. The defense minister from England came over. Everybody's watching. How did these guys, volunteers, make it happen? Well, they did. On our 5th year, we had APEC. and we called it HR Time. I remember the slogan was protect and preserve to prosper. Protect the reputation of our country. We will not steal this